Let me start today's video by saying that I personally believe that silver and gold should be part of your portfolio, your stack, whatever you may call it, and they are insanely important regardless of the spot price. The importance of having something other than this, fiat currencies. Now let me throw that away because that's just junk. It's very important, very critical that you have something that's value, that isn't paper, and that's out of the system and is immense. Now, how did we get here? Well, I would kind of like to point back to the 2000 financial crisis when the Fed decided to bail out big banks like Bank of America, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley. In total, they provided financial relief to 700 different banks. If we jump forward a little bit, they even started to bail out zombie companies, including Chrysler and General Motors back in 2009. However, the madness has really never stopped. For the past decade, we have seen quantitative easing and next to zero interest rates. This is problematic because they are allowing big banks and zombie companies to take on more financial risk. They will continue to do so because they know at the end of the day, if things start to go south, Mr. Disinflationary Powell and Grandma Janet Yellen will be there to provide them with some sort of bailout. So the Fed is basically encouraging these companies of all sectors to take financial irresponsibility. In my opinion, the best thing that could have happened with these institutions and zombie companies, they would have just died off. They wouldn't have bailed them out. Now, of course, as we all know, we know who's going to be paying this bill. It'll be the taxpayers, you, I, and our fellow Americans. Now, what they did back in the 2020 health crisis was absolutely insane. As we all know, they printed billions and trillions of dollars. Everybody was getting stimulus money from the government. Back in June 2020, the United States printed more money than they did in the first 2 centuries after its founding. Now, we're obviously going to continue to see sky-high inflation. Fuel prices are crazy high, and that number is rotating. And when you think about it, yesterday we had sky-high gas prices, and today they have come down a little bit. I know just recently they just shot up with OPEC making some more cuts to its production. And the nose came down on lumber prices when they were sky-high. The only things that we need are now eggs, milk, and other items. The point that I'm making that appears to rotate in a circle. Well, this has been too high for a long time. No, I'm not trying to go into all these conspiracy theories on you, but it seems like they're raising everything to take more of our money. Now, the Fed and our reckless politicians are responsible for creating the biggest bubble known to mankind. Now, guess what? When the financial crisis hits, I'm assuming late 2023 or early 2024, they're going to do the exact same thing as they did in 2008. And they're going to bail out these major institutions that continue to exercise bad monetary policies. And we know the American taxpayers will pay for the bailouts. On top of this, you can expect much higher inflation. Now, remember, inflation is the expansion of the money supply. In order to have disinflation, we need the government to stop spending money. But unfortunately, this is the exact opposite of what the government is doing. Good chance that America becomes the next Argentina or Venezuela with hyperinflation. On top of all this financial and economic turmoil, we now have countries that are in the beginning stages of de-dollarization. I mean, take a look at China and Brazil. They just recently decided to scrap the dollar. Instead of trading in dollars, they have now decided to trade in their own currencies. So, as most of you know, China has conducted its first liquefied natural gas purchase settled in yuan. according to the Shanghai Petroleum and Natural Gas Exchange. Now, the trade involved around 65,000 tons of LNG imported from the United Arab Emirates. The move is the latest sign of the yuan's growing role on the international stage. In an effort to de-dollarize, Beijing has promoted settlements in national currencies rather than the US dollar and euro. Now, global energy transactions will be denominated by the yuan, just as they were with the petrodollar. We now have the Petro Yuan. Next up, we have the Bric Nations, which stand for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Now, these nations have their annual summit in August in South Africa. During their summit, they are expected to announce new countries joining the Bric Nations. Perhaps these new nations will be called BRICS Plus nations. We'll just have to wait and see. And we have seen countries like Saudi Arabia and Turkey interested in becoming members of the Bric Nations. As we have more countries joining the BRICS nations, that will equal more de-dollarization, meaning that those countries are no longer interested in trading in dollars, and they will come back to the States, which will create, again, much more inflation. And now the second thing that I'm keeping my eye on is that they are planning on announcing a new currency backed by commodities, perhaps gold. Now, we have seen central banks around the globe that have made record-breaking gold purchases in 2022, and they will continue with this trend in 2023. Check out countries like Turkey and India. These two countries were involved in some of the record-breaking purchases of gold. We have seen presidents and leaders of nations who tell their citizens to get outside of the US dollar. I think most of the world is ready for a change. I just want to show you the importance of why you want to have some sort of physical asset that isn't a currency. Imagine a situation where foreign governments, foreign countries, governments, or just people in general no longer believe in the US dollar. And now I think it's like 60 to 60% of overseas transactions that are made in the US dollar. Could be a little bit more, could be a little bit lower. Foreign transactions are still made in the US dollar. However, the day the dollar stops being used for most transactions is the day we'll wish that we had something else. Whatever it might be, whether it's, silver or gold, whatever it may be. Now, I love silver for several reasons, and I could talk about silver all day. Obviously, I'm not going to do that, but one of the main reasons why I love silver so much is that, it's an asset that I can hold within the palm of my hand, and I just love looking at it. I think it's a gorgeous asset, and there's no counterparty risk. And another reason is that the government cannot get its sticky paws on. Of course, as we all know, it's a hedge against inflation, and the list could go on and on. Now, remember this, silver is wealth outside of the system. Silver will never lose its value, and gold and silver have been money for 5,000 years, and all fiat currencies eventually wind up dying. Gold and silver, I can tell you right now, they are not going anywhere. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.